This is the story of my near-death experience that happened when I was 35, 5 years ago now. I was the passenger in a car, and the car was driving on the side of a mountain, like on a mountain road. And on one side of the road, the mountain went straight up, and then the other side of the road, it just was like a drop. There was like a cement barrier. And an oncoming car that was approaching us came into our lane by accident and was headed straight for us. And so the driver of my car swerved to get out of the way, but there was a very skinny shoulder, like a gravel shoulder on the side of the road. So our car swerved onto the gravel shoulder to avoid him, but then we had to swerve back on the road really quickly because there was really no space to keep going. And our car ended up hitting the next oncoming car, because we were out of control. And then we flipped upside down and we landed upside down, like the roof was crushed, on the concrete metal barrier, so that when we opened our eyes, all we saw were upside down evergreen trees dropping like 700 feet. And the front of the car, the front seat that we were in, we were over the concrete barrier, and then the back of the car was like on the other side. And so there was like a lot of like metal. The car was like kind of resting. We didn't really want to move because you don't know if the thing's going to just keep going and going all the way down. And it's interesting because I had been working at the time as a paramedic for 13 years, and that area is known for cars just going over the edge in similar accidents. And we used to make jokes that the paramedics that started their career in that area didn't have a lot of experience because their patients would just fly over the edge, and then they never had a chance to meet them or help them. So that was the actual experience. That was the actual facts of the car accident. But my experience of the accident was its own story. So what happened was I closed my eyes when the car lost control. I could see that we were probably headed over the edge, and I think something in me just knew that you don't typically survive these accidents in this area. And even though everything happened really fast, my experience of time completely slowed down. So I was like, okay, we're gonna die. I've heard that you're supposed to die peacefully and really let go. So I closed my eyes, and even though we were getting banged around, it was very loud, I closed my eyes and I just leaned back in the seat and I just tried to really let go. And it's kind of like, like when a plane is taking off, you know that there's nothing you can do to stop that plane from taking off, so you might as well just go with it. And as the car lost control and I closed my eyes, something happened that I wasn't expecting. I mean, I don't know what you expect, but what happened was I suddenly lifted out of my body, and my awareness and my feeling, everything of me no longer had a dense, like, physical body. And it felt like time stopped. There was like an unbelievable lightness that it's really hard to describe. The only way that I would compare it is as though you were like a cloud, like you just have no weight to you. Or even if you're somebody that can remember your dreams really well, when you're in a dream, you don't feel any weight. You just are aware of your surroundings or participating or watching something, but there's no body involved. And that's what it felt like. There was a floating feeling and a really deep calm, a level of calm that I've never experienced, and no anxiety, no resistance. And I'm not a particularly tense person as it is, but in retrospect, I'm like, wow, humans carry a lot of tension in their body that we don't realize until we're not in our body. It felt like a pillowy, feathery, soft blackness. And not black in the way of being bad or scary, of it just being maybe like, I don't know, some people would describe it maybe like a womb, but it was almost just like a peaceful, just like a peaceful black darkness. And it felt initially kind of like when you wake up from a nice dream and you have like 2 or 3 seconds before you got to get up for the day, and you're just really, really in that really smooth space. For me, there's this huge feeling of familiarity, this feeling that I've never experienced before. Compared to any home I've ever had on earth, any wonderful earth home seemed like a completely foreign and confusing land compared to this place. And I didn't meet any relatives, I didn't meet any angels, didn't meet Jesus. I just experienced this pure presence, a presence of something too big to see, too massive to be contained in an image or in a body. This presence could see right through me, and I felt love emanating at me from all directions, and there was nothing in me that wanted to hide anything or conceal anything or pretend anything, because there was a complete seeing and understanding of me. And now I understand a bit more about why some religions don't use the name or write the name of God, because such magnitude can't be named. It almost seems like you're doing a disservice. So this presence was both around me and through me, the way that smoke floats through the screen of a window, because I didn't have my body to block it. It was just moving through me. And there was no differentiating me from it. It was like there was like some form of a meld, and yet there was a distinction because I was aware of it, and I could tell that it was aware of me in a very happy, smiling way. I had no thoughts of Earth. Earth just didn't even seem real. It seemed like a dream, and what was real was this presence with whom I wanted to merge forever. And I felt that this presence could tell me the secrets of all the ages, answer any question, tell me why I did the foolish things that I did, and that it found me just as interesting and fascinating as I found it. And this experience, it could have gone on for years, and I never would have gotten bored. And together there, with that presence, there really was no time. And I know that I have been loved on earth and I have loved others, but the level of love, unconditional love, was beyond anything that I'd ever experienced since I've been in a human body. But suddenly I was snapped back into my body, and the noises started to come back. They were first muffled, and then they got louder and louder, and I could hear everybody saying things like, "Oh, I don't want to go and look. I don't want to see a dead body. I'm never going to be able to get over that." And I realized that the bystanders thought we were dead, and nobody wanted to come in. Nobody wanted to come take a look. And someone got me out of the car, and I was completely blissed out. I've never felt so calm, and I ended up being the one who was trying to calm other people down. And it was like I left Earth as one person, and when I came back, I was still me, although it felt like I had been gone for years, because I felt like I had gained years of experience, or something in me had changed, like in those couple seconds, because for me, it seemed like so much time. And I did feel a little disappointed to have left, but there was a lot of bliss that really stayed with me, so I wasn't super upset to be back. In the next year, I ended up quitting my job as a paramedic, and I sold my house and all my belongings, became a minimalist, and started traveling and setting out to do all kinds of things that I always thought that maybe I'd do in the future when the time was perfect. And I realize now that there is no perfect timing. I noticed some big changes started to set in very quickly, like increased intuition, increased synchronicities, a huge ease at the idea of death, no problem talking about the topic of death. And I started volunteering at a hospice because I I figured that those people that were in the process of dying were actually probably the only people that might understand a little bit of what I went through, because I knew the process of dying is kind of a slow one if you have a terminal illness, and I thought, okay, well, maybe we can understand each other or something. Um, and something else that was interesting is I developed a very big disinterest in the parts of myself that were inauthentic, and things in the world that were inauthentic. Any inauthenticity in my life actually became painful and uncomfortable. It's not like I became 100% truth-telling, honest person overnight, but the growing discomfort of not started to really govern my decision making. That presence remained. It didn't remain obviously at the same level, but it remained in a form, a quieter, softer, smaller form, where it would guide me and continues to guide me through chaos. And because of this presence, I never feel alone. I feel like my significant other is this presence. And because of this presence, I don't get lonely. And of course, I thrive on great connections. I mean, I'm a human being, and, we're all wired for connection. But some of the more codependent or like grabby, reachy, needy parts of me started to relax and started to become more healed. And to be honest, sometimes there is an intense desire to get back to that soft, pillowy realm of just being in that completeness. But I know that I survived the accident for some sort of a reason. My earth life still has people and places and experiences that are going to be important for my soul's journey, and others. And yet the contrast the contrast that remains is something that I am definitely still integrating and will be integrating for a long time.